Unique communities, we're proud by doing our part in building complete communities, creating jobs, and delivering more housing for families in Vaughan and across Ontario. Today, I want to recognize the leadership and collaboration across all three levels of government. As a home builder, we see firsthand how initiatives such as HST relief, lower development costs, and major infrastructure investments can help us build more homes and get them to the market faster. And just as importantly, improvements to the last mile connection process are helping connect homes to the grid faster and more affordably than ever before. Together, these measures can help homeownership become more attainable for more families across Vaughan and all of Ontario. Premier Ford, Mayor Del Duca, our local MPP Stephen Lecce, and all of our partners across the federal, provincial, and municipal governments, today I want to say congratulations and thank you for your commitment to addressing the housing challenge. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce His Worship Stephen Del Duca, the Mayor of the City of Vaughan.
Well, good morning, everyone. What a beautiful day here in the city of Vaughan. The sun is shining, and I know that we are very much looking forward to the incredibly positive news we will be hearing shortly from our federal and provincial partners. You can see to my left several members. Almost our entire Vaughan City Council is here today, members of our senior leadership team. This is a very exciting time for our community. I want to begin by thanking Mike Ferry and the entire team at Unique Communities that are building such a beautiful neighborhood here that in the not too distant future will be home to many families that are looking to start a life or to continue a life here in this particular community. To Unique Communities for their home building expertise, to the Milani Group for their development expertise, I want to express my deep, heartfelt gratitude. We are so fortunate here in the city of Vaughan to be home to so many extraordinary builders, extraordinary skilled tradespeople like the incredible workers you see standing behind us here today. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. I'm very excited about hearing the good news that the Premier and our federal friends will be delivering momentarily. But I do want to begin or continue my remarks by acknowledging the individuals that are going to be speaking. From Parliamentary Secretary McKelvey to Minister Sadhu, two individuals I've had the chance to know through many, many years, witnessing their extraordinary work at the federal level, representing their respective constituencies, but also representing our country at a very difficult and precarious time. And of course, to our provincial friends and colleagues, our local MPPs here in the city of Vaughan, Minister Lecce, Minister Tobolo, and MPP Smith, three extraordinary individuals who are only a phone call away from me, or for me and the rest of our team, whether the issues relate to highways or healthcare or education or anything else that municipalities are responsible for dealing with directly. They are only a phone call away, and they've been extraordinary advocates and champions for the city of Vaughan. Minister Rob Flack, who I've come to know so well these last few years, in his capacity as Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, I have to tell you, over the years throughout my own political journey, I've had the honor of serving alongside Ministers of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and in my current role as Mayor, I've had the chance to work with various Ministers of Municipal Affairs and Housing. I am here today to tell you that Rob Flack is unrivaled in his expertise, his collaborative spirit, and his dedication to helping make sure that communities like the city of Vaughan get shovels in the ground and get housing built and give people that dream of home ownership, which is fundamental to what it means, to my way of thinking, to be both a Canadian and an Ontarian. And I publicly and enthusiastically want to thank Minister Rob Flack for his exceptional leadership. And of course, to Premier Doug Ford, speaking of an individual who is only a phone call away. Now, I know that maybe 4 years ago, people seeing me stand at a podium to praise endlessly Premier Doug Ford might have seemed a little bit peculiar. But I have to tell you, in these last few years, in particular in this capacity as Vaughan's mayor, Premier Doug Ford has been an incredible, incredible friend and ally to our community. He and I do have the opportunity to chat regularly. He is passionate about what we are here today to talk about, and along with Prime Minister Carney, we've seen this week He is passionate, of course, as a patriotic Canadian, helping to defend our sovereignty in the face of unprecedented challenges. Premier Doug Ford, I want to say to you, thank you for your friendship, thank you for your support, and thank you for always putting the people of Ontario right at the top of your priority list in every regard. Thank you so much, Premier. Now, I'm going to stop talking in just a quick moment, I promise, but I do want to say this journey here in the city of Vaughan, doing our very best to make housing more affordable and to start more housing getting built here in our community, is a journey that began for us just about 2 years ago in the fall of 2024, when I believe the city of Vaughan was the very first municipality in Ontario to make a substantial reduction in our development charges. Not because we don't recognize that development charges pay for important infrastructure, they do, but because we recognized we were living in an unprecedented time when so many individuals who wanted to get into or stay in the housing market were unable to do so. Here in this community, like the construction workers we have here today, like our friends at Build who are represented and have done a great job as champions as well, we are, I like to say, we are like right at the epicenter of the home building, construction, and land development industry. This is important to me and to our council and to our community because it helps get people, families, into housing. It's also important because of the jobs that people get to go to work, whether it's tradespeople or the rest that work in the home building, land development, and construction ecosystem. That's what we recognized just about 2 years ago. And I know there were skeptics. There were skeptics here locally that said cutting development charges would be risky. There were skeptics in other municipalities who suggested that what we were doing was the wrong thing. But this council and this community with our staff had the courage to take the calculated risk to be able to continue to invest in infrastructure and at the same time do everything we could do within our jurisdiction to make that dream of home ownership just a little bit more affordable. We took that calculated risk, that leap of faith, and today I am so thrilled to be here with my council colleagues and so many from across our community to hear the good news about our federal and provincial partners stepping up to help support the leadership, that calculated risk, that leap of faith that we took 2 years ago with what we believe will be very, very good news today. To the people of our city, to the people of Vaughan, I just want to remind every one of you, we said 2 years ago when we reduced development charges substantially, we said that we would do it without risking our infrastructure plan, without risking our services, and without putting an undue burden on them in terms of property taxes. I'm here 2 years later to tell you, here in the city of Vaughan, we have done all three. No property tax increase at the local level in 2026, no service cuts, and no slowing down on the infrastructure plan that our residents hold so dear. And I'm going to finish up by saying it is entirely fitting that we are standing here in this beautiful neighborhood because one of the projects that we included in our application to the Canada-Ontario Development Charge Reduction Program is in fact, the connection of Teston Road between Dufferin and Kiel, which is a long-needed, long-anticipated road connection that we need here in our city. So with that, thank you so much, all of you, for being here. To our federal friends, I want to say to the Prime Minister, to Minister Robertson, of course, Minister Sadu, and Parliamentary Secretary McKelvey, and to Premier Ford and the extraordinary team, including Minister Rob Flack, thank you for helping this become an extraordinarily special day right here in the greatest city in Canada, the city of Vaughan. With that, please join me in welcoming Parliamentary Secretary Jennifer McKelvey to the podium. Thank you, everyone.
Well, good morning. It's an absolute delight to be here with you today in Vaughan. Thank you very much to Your Worship for the kind introduction, and it is so great to be here alongside Premier Ford and my colleague who works very hard for you in Ottawa, the Minister of Trade, Sadu. Today's announcement is about much more than funding for the community of Vaughan. It's about what we can accomplish when governments work together to tackle the challenges that matter the most to Canadians. Building a strong Canada starts with building strong communities. Across the country, Canadians are looking for reliable infrastructure, affordable housing, and economic opportunities that help communities thrive. At a time when communities across Canada are facing rising costs to maintain, improve, and expand essential infrastructure, All levels of government must work together to ensure communities have the tools they need to grow and prosper. Today's investment through the Ontario Development Charge Reduction Program will help strengthen infrastructure in Vaughan. Through this federal-provincial partnership, federal investments through the Build Community Strong Fund will support infrastructure projects that serve Canadians and strengthen communities from coast to coast to coast. Launched earlier this year, the Build Community Strong Fund is providing $51 billion over 10 years, starting this fiscal year, as well as $3 billion per year ongoing. This fund supports important community infrastructure such as hospitals and health facilities, roads and bridges, water and wastewater systems, public transit networks, and recreational and cultural facilities that enhance the quality of life for Canadians. We know that investing in infrastructure helps support economic growth, strengthens communities, creates opportunities, and helps support housing development by ensuring communities have the capacity they need to grow. And working in partnership with the provinces and the territories is a key part of that effort. What we are announcing today builds on our strong collaboration with the province of Ontario, including our work to reduce the cost of housing with the new HST rebate for new homes. Our government is also working hard to accelerate the pace of home building with Build Canada Homes, with projects underway across the country. But the message today is simple. When Canada, Ontario, and municipalities work together, we can get more done. We can build the infrastructure that communities need, we can accelerate housing construction, we can support workers and Canadian businesses, and we can create the conditions that are needed for long-term economic growth. Today, Vaughan is showing what that partnership can achieve, and the Government of Canada will continue working with Ontario and municipalities across the province to build the homes, infrastructure, and communities that Canadians need. Thank you. Let's get to work. Let's build our community strong together. And with that, I'm delighted to introduce my very, very hardworking colleague, Maninder Sidhu, who is the Minister of International Trade.
Well, good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Thank you, Jennifer, for that warm welcome as the Member of Parliament for Ajax and the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing. I know Jennifer has been a strong champion for housing, and I want to thank her for her work in support of this important file. It's great to be here in Vaughan. To Premier Ford and Minister Flack, thank you for meeting us at the table with this partnership. I also want to recognize Minister Lecce, who represents this riding. To Mayor Del Duca, thank you for making Vaughan one of the municipalities that's stepping up here today. Today is only possible because of your strong leadership. I would like to start by saying that everything we're doing as a government comes back to one goal: building a stronger, more resilient Canada. That means diversifying our trade, so our economy isn't dependent on any single partner. This has always been the plan, and you can see that we've made progress. We've now signed 20 economic and security agreements with partners around the world, and that's how we're laying the foundation to open more opportunities for our businesses and workers. In March, Prime Minister Carney signed a comprehensive strategic partnership with Japan. Only a few months later, during the Team Canada trade mission I led to Japan, we secured $1.7 billion in deals. Many of those deals involved Ontario companies. Our first ever shipment of Canadian crude oil arrived in Japan just 2 weeks ago, and that's just one partner. We're bringing the same energy with partners around the world, and we're not slowing down. That's how we've secured $10 billion in commercial deals through the trade missions that I've led. And this fall, I'm leading another trade mission, a Team Canada trade mission to India, with close to 200 Canadian businesses across aerospace, clean tech, agriculture, and more. We know there are major opportunities for Canadian businesses there, and we are leaning in like never before. Minister Fedeli has seen this firsthand. He recently led his own trade mission to India, and it opened the door to new commercial opportunities for Ontario businesses. We are all on Team Canada. And that same Team Canada spirit is what brings us here today, to build more resilient communities. Right now, young people across this country are working hard, saving what they can, and holding on to a simple goal: owning a home of their own. For too many, that's been out of reach, not because they don't work hard or because they don't save, but because the cost of building a home has become too high before even a single brick is laid. Development charges are part of that story. They pay for real things, roads, pipes, transit. But when those charges climb, they become a barrier between a young family and their first set of keys. In March, Canada and Ontario signed a new partnership, an $8.8 billion partnership to build the infrastructure our communities need to grow under the Build Communities Strong Fund. And one of its central tools is the Development Charge Reduction Program. With it, municipalities can choose to cut their development charges on new homes by up to 50%. And when they do, we show up too. Federal and provincial infrastructure funding to help build the roads, sidewalks, and parks that growing communities need. Those lower rates aren't a one-time deal. They stay in place for at least 3 years. That's how we drive affordability in the long term. Vaughan said yes. It's one of the municipalities stepping up to reduce its development charges to unlock this funding. That means lower upfront costs on new homes in this community. That means more projects that were stalled or on the drawing board have a greater chance to move forward. That means more homes built faster for the people who actually need them. Today, we're taking that barrier down here in Vaughan. Through the Ontario Development Charge Reduction Program, the DCRP, the City of Vaughan is receiving up to $697 million from both the federal and provincial government. This investment will help build the infrastructure, help Vaughan build the infrastructure it needs. That includes improvements to water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure, such as the new water main at Keel Street, the upsizing and reconstruction of Block 22 water main, and improvements to Black Creek culverts and conveyance capacity. It will also support important transportation improvements, including widening Huntington Road and Kirby Road to 4 lanes, adding a mid-block crossing on Colossus Drive, extending Bass Pro Mills Drive from Highway 400 to Western Road, and improving Teston Road, as we heard from the Mayor, with new road alignments and related infrastructure. And this program doesn't just stand alone. It works alongside what we've already done. Working with the province, we've eliminated the HST on new homes. Together, that's up to $230,000 in savings on taxes and fees for a family purchasing a new home. Real relief for young people and families looking to enter the housing market. This will help unlock 120,000 new homes here today. I want to be clear about who this is for. This is for the young nurse working her first years on a hospital floor. This is about an electrician saving on every paycheck for a down payment. This is about a couple starting a family excited about the dream of home ownership. I've met families like this in communities right across our country. They want a housing market that's accessible. They're asking for a fair shot, and our government has heard that. And that's why we didn't just build this program in Ottawa and hand it down. We built it as a true partnership with the province and with municipalities willing to lead. Because housing just isn't a federal challenge or a provincial issue or a municipal problem. It's a shared responsibility, and it takes all of us working together to solve it. And to every municipality still considering whether to join this program, Vaughan has shown you that it can be done. This partnership is real, and we know that building strong at home takes partnerships, and that's exactly why we're doing this here on housing. Strong partnerships, whether in housing or in trade, is how we build a more resilient Canada. This announcement is one more example of that, and to the people of Vaughan, we are delivering. And to every young person watching, this is one more step towards building a brighter future together. Thank you. I'd like to now welcome Minister Flack to the stage.
Well, thank you, Minister Sadhu, and for that introduction, and thank you, Mark. Where's Mark? There he is. Michael, great job today. Unique Communities are doing a great job right here in Vaughan. It's always a pleasure to be here in Vaughan, especially when you get to bring such good news, and I want to thank all the good construction workers behind us. You're the guys we're keeping on the job here, and this is why we're here today making this important announcement. You're going to hear it shortly from Premier Ford, but before I begin, I want to recognize our local MPPs, Minister Lecce and Tabolo, and Parliamentary Assistant Laura Smith, who works closely with me on the housing files. She does a great job representing this region, as does Michael, as does Stephen. And of course, I always enjoy the opportunity to connect with Mayor Del Duca. And not bad for a Liberal and a Tory, eh? We're getting stuff done, buddy. I'll tell you this, he really led the way when it came to DCs. He and Mayor Parrish in Mississauga, it was their idea of reducing DCs and deferring DCs until occupancy that brought it into legislation that we introduced last year. So again, thank you for your leadership, Mayor, and good luck this fall. It sounds like you got a robust candidate running against you, so all the best. As we all know, Ontario is in the midst of an affordability crisis, a housing affordability crisis. We've heard it from a number of our speakers today. We know this has to change. The dream of home ownership must be attainable. The dream of home ownership must be kept alive. I've said it time and time again. And we know that it takes too long and it costs too much to build housing in Ontario. If there's one thing that is true, that is the reality, and we are changing that. And that's why, since 2025, we've passed 3 critical pieces of legislation to help lower the cost of building homes. The Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter Act, the Fighting Delays in Building Faster Act, and this past June, Building Homes and Improving Transportation Infrastructure Act. Again, these pieces of legislation work to reduce red tape, lower the cost to get shovels in the ground, and overall speed up the delivery of new homes. Time is money. It is also why we signed, as the Minister just said, the Canada-Ontario Partnership to Build this past spring with the federal government. This agreement made the full 13% HST rebate on new homes possible, one action that is saving up to $130,000. I can tell you, we're seeing progress right across the province. In fact, year over year, new home sales are up 130% in the second quarter of 2026. Stay tuned, better news to come. Additionally, this agreement, as has been said, is providing $8.8 billion over 10 years for housing enabling infrastructure projects, like we heard about today, including the DC Reduction Program, or DCRP. Now, we know why many municipalities have levied development charges. Historically, they have been an important tool used to fund needed infrastructure to get homes built. However, development charges have grown significantly in many parts of the province and driving up housing costs and contributing immensely to our affordability crisis. These costs can no longer be laid squarely on the shoulders of new home buyers. We appreciate the many municipal partners, including Vaughan and its municipal council. Again, councillors, thank you for coming out today, who are keen to take advantage of the opportunity presented by the DC Reduction Program. This is an important tool for years to come. In light of the economic uncertainty caused by President Trump, and we all know it, I'm pleased to be in Vaughan today to announce with my colleagues a stable, a strong, and a substantial initiative that will keep and protect jobs here in Vaughan, here in the York region, and keep the dream of home ownership alive for everyone. Today is a good reflection of what can be accomplished when all levels of government, provincial, municipal, and federal work in unison to drive important change. And with that, I'll turn it over to Captain Canada himself, Premier Doug Ford. Thanks, Dave.
Well, first of all, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Minister Flack, for that introduction. It's great to be back here in Vaughan. Matter of fact, I say, I was back here in Vaughan. I'm up here every single day, so it's good to be here for another visit alongside Minister Lecce and Tobolo, both doing an incredible job. Minister Lecce is actually keeping lights on, growing our energy, one of our strengths, critical minerals as well. Minister Tobolo working in the Attorney General side by side with them, making sure that we have the laws to keep the bad people in jail. And Michael, you're doing an incredible job, and so are you, Stephen. And P.A. Smith, thank you for working hand in hand. You're absolutely instrumental in working with Minister Flack and getting projects like this moving right across the province. And I've never seen anyone show up to more events than Parliamentary Assistant Smith, doing an incredible job. Minister Sadu, thank you for your partnership and contributing towards our growth of our province and right across the country, along with Parliamentary Secretary McKelvey. You're both working your backs off. I appreciate the collaboration. And now, Mayor Del Duca, my absolute champion. When everyone else, and we're going back a couple of years, when everyone else was saying, don't do development charges, don't lower them, he was getting pressure. Who led the way? It was Mayor Del Duca. He was leading the way out of 444 municipalities, taking heat from some other people. But guess what? Because of your leadership, Mayor Del Duca, everyone followed. Every single municipality has followed. That's the difference, and I know Mayor Del Duca couldn't do it without his great council, so thank you. Nothing moves without council and the mayor working together, so I'm very grateful for the council and Mayor Del Duca. We'll get to that check in a minute. I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate the cannolis that you bring over on Saturdays and Sundays. And that big check's going to buy one heck of an amount of cannolis, I'll tell you that. I want to thank Mike and the entire team at Unique Communities, but I want to thank our great hardworking men and women behind me. Thank you. Folks, this wouldn't even happen if it wasn't for the great tradespeople here. These are beautiful homes. I encourage everyone to come up who's interested in buying a home. These are stunning, beautiful homes. I want to begin by acknowledging yesterday's announcement from the federal government, outlining its response to President Trump's latest tariffs, including dollar for dollar, tariff for tariff, and additional support for tariff-impacted workers. Prime Minister has my full support in standing up for our country as part of a United Team Canada. And I encourage him to keep working with us and go even further to protect workers and businesses who are being hit by tariffs, including by directing any revenues from counter tariffs to impacted sectors. We need to help our businesses compete and close the gap created by these new tariffs. That means eliminating federal greenhouse gas emission standards for Canadian-made vehicles and exempting tariff-impacted sectors from federal emissions performance standards, which together add hundreds of millions of dollars in cost for Canadian businesses that make us uncompetitive. Tariff rate quotas on steel imports need to be dropped to zero on countries that do not have free trade agreements with Canada, and to 12% on countries that do have free trade agreements. Folks, I'm just going to explain this quota because I'm talking quotas and people are wondering. So I'm gonna just simplify this. Countries around the world, I won't name any countries. What happens if we don't have a free trade agreement? A lot of them are getting cheap steel made in China and they're slapping made in whatever country sticker on it and then dumping it here in Canada, hurting the steel sector. Now, with free trade agreements, we need to bring it 12%. So anything over on top of 12%, they get a tariff. And non-free trade countries, anything zero. As soon as they drop steel, they're getting a tariff. That's going to help our steel community and steel sector. Canada is under economic attack by President Trump. We have to move fast. I always say with our bureaucracy in Ontario, and I say that for the federal government, I mentioned this to the Prime Minister, I've mentioned it to mayors, faster, quicker, immediate. We can't be dilly-dallying around. I know how the province works, the feds, and especially the municipalities. I walked a mile in your shoes. You know, it gets into the system. I call it the merry-go-round, and it goes around and around. Then it gets comments, and then it goes back, and it goes around and around. And Mike knows exactly what I'm talking about. The mayor and the councillors know. Push your bureaucrats as hard as you can. They're good people. They work hard, but you have to stay on them. We can't be waiting 2 years, 3 years for approval. We have to move fast, and we can't let ideology get in the way of protecting people's jobs. For our part, Ontario is delivering nearly $30 billion in tariff support, including through our $1 billion Protect Ontario financing program, which is helping tariff-impacted businesses keep their doors open and keep workers on the job. We're keeping taxes fees low, saving people and businesses $12 billion each and every single year. Matter of fact, folks, we have never, ever raised a tax. We will never raise a tax. We'll continue lowering taxes. Very simple philosophy. Put money into all of your pockets, and you're going to do things you might otherwise not be able to do. As simple as maybe going out to a great restaurant in Vaughan, buying your kids clothes, or even better, taking advantage of the HST and the DC development charges that we're dropping and save up to buy a home. And through our $1.1 billion small business tax cut, we're saving more than 375,000 small businesses, up to $5,000 every single year. And in the meantime, it's never been more important to deliver on our plan, to build a more competitive, resilient, self-reliant economy so we can support job creation, lower cost, and attract investment. Here in Vaughan, we're making record investments through our $236 billion infrastructure plan to keep workers on the job. we're investing $55 million through the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program to support critical core infrastructure projects that will support the construction of over 45,000 new homes. And to keep goods and people moving across the province, we're fighting gridlock by building the new highways like Highway 413, the Bradford Bypass, and the 401 Tunnel. To lower costs for families and keep workers on the job, we've cut the HST on new homes, providing the $2.2 billion in tax relief, saving home buyers up to $130,000. And we're seeing the results with new home sales up by 130% compared to last year. Isn't it amazing when you create the climate and the conditions, how people come and purchase a home? We're doubling down on this progress through our historic agreement with the federal government, which I thank the federal government, I thank the Prime Minister, to invest the $8.8 billion for infrastructure, with a majority earmarked for communities that dramatically reduce development charges. And tell President Trump I'll call him back that phone. Okay, in partnership with the federal government, today we're awarding the city of Vaughan up to $697.2 million through the Development Charge Reduction Program in recognition of its ambitious and important decision to cut development charges on new homes. This funding will go towards new infrastructure projects across the city, making it easier for Vaughan to continue building new homes and lowering costs for families. The city's cut to development charges, along with investments in housing enabling infrastructure, will support the construction of over 120,000 new homes and lower the cost of building these new homes by up to $100,000 when combined with the expanded relief on the HST and eligible new homes. That means we're saving home buyers in Vaughan up to $230,000 off the cost of a new home. It's incredible. $230,000. Folks, there's never been a better time to buy a home than it is today. It's an incredible achievement, and I want to give a special shout out again to Mayor Del Duca. Folks, remember, he's leading the way. And I got to give a shout out to the people of Vaughan. Mayor Del Duca needs to get reelected. The councillors need to get reelected. He has done more for Vaughan and with the council's support than anyone in the history of Vaughan. He has been a provincial leader when it comes to cutting development charges and red tape that make home builders more expensive. And I want to encourage other municipality leaders to see the success he's having here in Vaughan and follow his example. Ontario will continue working with our federal and municipal partners to support our workers, lower costs, and keep the dream of home ownership within reach for hardworking families in every corner of our province. I know that workers and families are worried about how tariffs will rise costs and impact their jobs. That's why this announcement is so important. It is delivering on our plan to build a more competitive and resilient economy. It's helping keep thousands of construction workers on the job, and it's saving families hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's showing what Team Canada can do when we all work together. Thank you, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you.
We will now take questions from the media. Media present can ask their questions by forming a line and asking through the microphone. As a friendly reminder, the format is one question and one follow-up. Please state your name and your outlet before your question. First question.
Yeah, you see all these bees? I swear they're President Trump's bee drones, because they're coming after me.
I was going to say, watch
But
out.
I'm ready.
Maybe keep your answers short, Premier, so your mouth isn't open.
Yeah.
Jeff Gray, Globe and Mail.
Hey,
Wanted
Jeff.
to follow up on your comments about the Prime Minister, the federal government's announcements yesterday.
Yes.
Are you disappointed? I mean, you did not get the emissions changes you've called for, the industrial carbon tax and the tailpipe emissions, and they haven't made this move on steel quotas that you're talking about. Are you disappointed with what they announced yesterday?
No, I'm quite happy that they went out and challenged the U.S. and President Trump, tariff for tariff, dollar for dollar. I'm very proud of what they did. On the emissions, we've had this discussion with the Prime Minister. We're going to have it, but we can't put an additional burden on these companies or they just won't exist. It's as simple as that. We have the cleanest grid in the world here in Ontario. Over 90% emissions clean, and What we're going to do is going to continue doing that. I'm going to call Stephen Lecce up in a second here, because he's handling the energy file. Our goal is to have 100% clean province right across the board. So there's no reason to do this. It just puts a burden on the backs of companies. I've talked to CEOs. Prime Minister has talked to CEOs. Bottom line is, if this burden continues, they're gone. Dofasco, within a few years, 4 or 5 years, could be paying $500 million a year. They don't even make $500 million. They'll pack up and they'll be gone in about 3 seconds. We have to create the climate and the conditions for companies to thrive. When the U.S. doesn't have any additional charges, we can't have charges. I'm very confident, working collaboratively with the Prime Minister, and we always do. He's going to correct that issue. And with the gas tax, we've eliminated the gas tax. I encourage Prime Minister to eliminate the gas tax permanently. People can't afford it. You see these gas prices; they're getting jacked up nonstop. I think these gas companies are playing games with it. Have you ever noticed this? What ticks me off, folks? You go at night, and all mysteriously, it drops 10, 15, 20 cents. It's crazy. And guess what? In the morning, they jack it up. So they're screwing us. That's what they're doing. They're playing games. Prices don't change that quickly. So to the oil companies, get your act together. Stop playing games with the people of Ontario. You think we just fell off the turnip truck. Not happening anymore. So over to Minister Lecce, and you can explain what we're doing to have clean energy.
How do I follow that? But good morning, everyone. Look, we have made the case to the federal government that if we want to have a competitive advantage for industry, this is before President Trump, but it is so much more real today after the president's latest attack on the country, that the industrial carbon tax, the clean energy regulations, policies that add a premium to the cost of doing business in this province means killing jobs. We have demonstrated through the Independent Electricity Systems Operator, an independent agency, has proven that the Premier's vision to expand non-emitting, clean nuclear and hydropower will make Ontario not just among the cleanest in the industrialized world. We will get to 99% of Ontario's electricity grid will be non-emitting. Not because we impose higher taxes or the mandates of the vehicles you can drive, but because we have expanded, non-emitting, clean, made-in-Canada power leveraging the best of our nuclear technology. That plan by 2050 will get us to 99% without imposing additional costs. If we pursue or we allow the current regulation to prevail, we're adding tens of billions of dollars on the backs of businesses that are under attack by this most recent tariff. So we have demonstrated that our plan is sensible, it is pragmatic, it is affordable for families, businesses, and for workers. It is not surprising the Canadian Chamber, the Ontario Chamber, the Toronto Board of Trade, every economic institute has stood with Ontario as we advocate to the feds, and it should be said that they hear us. And while yesterday's announcement is the first step, there could be other opportunities for collaboration and for policy alignment in this area.
Thank you. A follow-up question, Premier, about comments you made on Saturday about you didn't like the deal you saw Wednesday. By Friday, though, you had told the Prime Minister that you were not going to support it, you were not going to put U.S. booze back at the LCBO. We didn't hear about the deal, the talks collapsing, till later Friday, and the Prime Minister has given us other reasons. Is it wrong for me to draw the logical conclusion that, in fact, the person who vetoed this deal was Doug Ford?
Well, at the end of the day, the Prime Minister is the person in charge. I work very well with him. I have a great deal of respect for the Prime Minister. And just compare to the last Prime Minister, night and day. He's doing a great job. He's a fighter. He's standing up to President Trump. And again, at the end of the day, it's his choice. And he made the right choice. He made the right choice because the Prime Minister reaches out to the CEOs of, for instance, Dofasco, the auto sector, and he's hearing it from the sector themselves. And he was hearing it from myself. But that's not the only reason. Try to make a deal with Howard Lutnick and President Trump. You know, they kept moving the goalpost on the Prime Minister, and he did the right thing. And he has overwhelming support across the country, so he made the right decision at the end of the day, and I appreciate that decision because we're going to fight like we've never fought before against President Trump. We're going to create the climate and conditions in collaboration with municipalities in the country and the federal government to attract more investment, which we've seen over $230 billion of investment. We led North America because we've worked with the municipalities, federal government, provincial government in job creation. 52,000 jobs last month, 120,000 new full-time jobs over 4 months. We hammered the U.S. as their unemployment, they actually lost jobs. We gained jobs, even in uncertain times. So we're going to continue working together and make sure we have a strong country, strong municipalities, and a strong province.
Premier Ford, Alex Tabo with MS Now. In the past, you've threatened yet stronger retaliation against the U.S., including curtailing the export of electricity from Ontario to the U.S. Would you still go that far?
I would. Everything's on the table, but I can't do it alone. You know, I'm not the only province that ships electricity down to the U.S. We need a Team Canada approach. And I'd be happy within the provinces to lead that approach. If this escalates and we can't get back to the table and he keeps coming after us, all options are on the table, in my opinion. But I can't do it alone. We have other provinces that send electricity down to the U.S. We all have to be on the same page.
And a follow-up, we know literally why we're in this trade war right now, but I guess more philosophically, what are the undercurrents that have brought us to this moment?
President Trump, simple as that. You have a president, unlike President Reagan, that didn't believe in tariffs. President Reagan believed in growing the economy on both sides of the border and around the world. Make no mistake about it, America is a powerhouse, but we're an economic powerhouse as well. We're the U.S.'s #1 customer across the board, across the world. We buy more products, more services, more widgets off the U.S. than anyone in the world. And a tariff on Canada is nothing more than a tax on the American people. I feel terrible for our workers here, the steel workers and auto sector, but we're going to back them. Down in the U.S., they're going to see massive layoffs because the ridiculous tariffs that President Trump has put on his closest friend, closest ally, #1 customer, and yes, they're our #1 customer. But I got to give credit to the Prime Minister. I got to give credit to Minister Sadu and Vic Fideli. They're traveling all around the world, making deals and agreements to diversify our trade to other regions of the world. And we've seen massive increase in trade with countries around the world because they feel the same pressure as what we're feeling right now against President Trump. And we're broadening the trade to over 2 billion people around the world. And we're going to continue working together as Team Canada.
Hi, Premier. Alison Jones with the Canadian Press. You're just speaking about electricity and all the provinces that send it down there, but I know that oil is obviously a big factor as well. You've called on all the provinces to use energy as leverage. I know you spoke to Danielle Smith on Monday. She's obviously still opposed to that idea. From your point of view, how did that conversation go, and is there anything you think you can do to get her on board with your approach?
Well, we had a great conversation. We get along quite well. We may disagree on certain items, but I'm going to be flying out there to pay her a visit. You know, this is why we need, the pipeline. We've needed this for 50 years going from west to over to east. And we're going to work on that. We're going to work collaboratively with Alberta and Premier Wab Kinew. We have to get his approval and Scott Moe, and everyone has to work together. I'm confident that's going to happen. But Premier Smith came up with some great ideas. Right now, we're getting our fuel and our natural gas coming down to the U.S. and coming back up to Canada. Craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. And the natural gas coming from Pennsylvania coming up. Well, we already have an existing pipeline, so we're going to reroute that, and we won't have to be reliant on the U.S. Isn't that amazing that we have energy sovereignty once we build this pipeline? We won't have to rely on anyone in the entire world. And that's our plan, and we're going to go as quickly as possible. So we get along very well. Again, we may differ on a couple things, but we have a strong plan. And I got to give Premier Smith the credit. She was the one who came up with these ideas, that rerouting this natural gas line and eventually rerouting Line 5 as well.
And I wanted to just ask about your change in tone. It was quite stark from Monday to Tuesday. Tell me about what led to that. Did you maybe have a call at all with the Prime Minister? Did he ask you to tone down the loser talk?
I had a call, but he never said that at all. He knows I have his back. The country knows I have their back. And yeah, does it get heated? When Donald Trump wants to take the livelihood and try to hurt our country and hurt our province, I have a job for the people of Ontario. I will fight with every tool I have to protect them. He doesn't care if people lose their jobs. He doesn't care if they can't put, food on their table or pay their overhead of rent or mortgages. He doesn't give two hoots. So I'll fight him right to the end. And I thought it'd be best just to simmer down. It was a heated day for both him and I going back and forth. But it looks like he simmered down too. So let's get back to the table. This is what happens when you're under attack by someone like President Trump. So I think it's better. Let's get the Prime Minister back at the table. Let's get Dominic LeBlanc back at the table and see if they want to make a deal. Because that's our ultimate goal, is to have a fair deal for both countries. I want, I've always been promoting Fortress North America. I want Americans to thrive and grow. I want Ontario and Canada to thrive and grow. And it can only be possible if you're open-minded and you want a fair deal. So hopefully the president comes to a sensus and realizes this, because if not, he's going to have one heck of a time in the midterms. He needs to get this deal done before the midterms.
Premier Mark McAllister from City News. You're saying that you want the Canadian side, the Prime Minister and the ministers, back to the table. Are you suggesting that we need to make the first move to get back to the table? There's been lots of discussion over who needs to do what first.
Well, that's going to be up to the Prime Minister and President Trump to get on the phone and have a conversation. Folks, I don't get involved in the day-to-day dealings of this trade deal. I have confidence that the Prime Minister and Dominic LeBlanc, Minister Dominic LeBlanc, will do an incredible job. And they proved it to the Canadians, that when it's not a fair deal, they're going to walk away from it. And yes, does he collaborate and call, not just myself, he calls other premiers across the province, gets their opinion. And that's what makes a good leader, when you get other people's opinion. And then, based on that, no matter if it's the private sector or the unions or other elected officials, and then you move on it after getting people's opinions. At least that's how I operate.
You've sent a letter to Ontario's board chairs calling on them to review their supply chains, plan procurements, to move away from American businesses. How are you setting the example, and what is the government doing to do that?
Well, we put in legislation that you have to buy Ontario first, Canada second, and anywhere else in the world third. I'm going to give you an example, and I keep hearing these rumors, and then I follow up. I get our ministers, but we're building a school. I think it's in Uxbridge. I'm not 100% sure. But it all starts with the architects and the engineers speccing out these materials. So I hear they spec out this brick, and God knows we have great brick companies here in Ontario, and they're buying it in the U.S. for $8 a brick, and we can sell it for $2. Like, these engineers and architects, I don't know how many times I have to tell you, how many times I got to tell the boards or everyone else, I don't care if it's an agency, buy Ontario, buy Canada. I feel like I'm just, like a broken record player, keep saying it. What don't you get? It's ridiculous. Buy Ontario. So I'm going to be all over these guys, and every architect, every engineer, if you think you're going to spec some funky thing down in the U.S. or overseas, not going to happen.
Michelle, CBC News. What came out of your talks with Premier Smith?
Well, a real productive talk. I'm going over there. We're going to have a good chat. We've agreed we got to get that pipeline right across the country, and we're going to be energy independent. That's what we're going to do. And she's come up with a few different ideas how we can reroute lines that are in the U.S. and run them through Ontario, existing pipelines. And I look forward to going to pay her a visit. I can't remember. I think it's in a couple of weeks. We'll sit down, have a fireside chat. We'll go visit some companies, talk to some of the big oil companies. I'll make sure I voice my opinion like I usually do. Why are you lowering costs at nighttime and jacking it up in the morning? Unacceptable. Unacceptable.
My follow-up is for Minister Sadu. Minister, during talks, what countries did the U.S. want to restrict Canada from doing trade with?
Look, it's a good question. We won't let another country tell us who we can and who we can't negotiate with. I think it's important that we maintain our sovereignty. The Prime Minister has been very clear. I've been out there negotiating free trade agreements. It's about opening market access. This is what chambers and businesses have asked us to do. This was Plan A from the start. It was in our platform during the election last year. It was in the speech from the throne. It's in the budget. And we're going to continue on that track. And we're on the right track. Look, we've unlocked opportunities in Japan, in Indonesia, in the UAE, in Ecuador. We just signed a free trade agreement with the UAE in less than 50 days, record time. I'm currently negotiating with ASEAN, with India, who I intend to lock down those agreements with by the end of this year. Right now, we have about 1.5 billion, we have access to about 1.5 billion consumers around the world. We are going to double that to over 3 billion people. We need to get our goods out to new markets, and that's exactly what the focus is. Thank you.
Premier Ford, Steve Cornwell from the
I'm just
Trillium.
going to follow up with the minister. The Prime Minister have gathered investors from all over the world, $100 trillion in total. They're coming to Toronto. He led that mission. And all the premiers are coming to Toronto, and we're all going to have an opportunity to tell them how great our country is, to invest here, invest into infrastructure. It's a stable country. So they know what they're going to get when they come here, and it's going to be really, really exciting. $100 trillion.
Hi, Premier Ford, Steve Cornwell here from the Trillium. Just another question on the Buy Ontario memo that you'd sent out yesterday. If you are regularly kind of reminding builders and perhaps staff that they should be, following the Buy Ontario policies and buying from local vendors, is it a signal that the legislation and policy that your government has put in place is too weak to enforce, the spirit of the legislation?
Good question, but there's always one bad apple. No, I think they're doing it probably 98% of the time, but it drives me crazy when I hear someone's buying something off the U.S., one of these agencies or hydro companies or whatever. Like, it's just common sense. Like, we're in a war. You protect your country. You protect your province. It's amazing how I have to chase these people down. It's staggering. They shouldn't even be working if they can't follow the, if I can use this, patriotic rules. When you're at war, you protect your own. You protect your own backyard. You don't go down to the U.S. and buy a product. There's nothing we can't make here in Ontario or across the country. So basically just another warning shot, but we're on to these folks like you've never seen before. And you know what I love? The suppliers are the ones calling us, giving us a heads up. So suppliers out there, keep calling us. If you see something going sideways, give us a ring and we'll hunt it down and hold them accountable.
And just a question, you mentioned the U.S. midterms. You've taken your message to American voters quite frequently in recent days. Monday you implored for American voters not to vote for someone who's going to take their job away.
That's right.
And you also said something to the effect of you're hoping Democrats can get their act together. At this stage, can you rule out running Government of Ontario ads in the U.S. ahead of the November midterms?
Yeah, no, we aren't going to run ads as far as I'm concerned right now. I want to, but I don't want to heighten this fight at all. We need to get back at the table. We got to simmer things down, and I just hope that the Dems get their act together. That's what I'm saying. They've never seen this in the U.S. Their party's being split. They've gone socialist communists on one side, and regular Democrats, hardworking, smart, pragmatic Democrats, are being under attack by their own party right now. That's actually pretty scary. Having socialist and communists running for the Democratic Party. Start your own party. Let the Dems. Let's go back to the Bill Clinton days that they worked together with the Republicans and really had the country booming. That's what we need.
Hi, Premier. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Hi, Siobhan.
You talked yesterday in your interviews about your confidence that a deal can be reached, but today you were talking about the problems that people like Howard Lutnick and other members of the administration present. So I'm just wondering where that confidence comes from.
I'm just confident eventually there's a line that's drawn in the sand, and they crossed that line. Prime Minister acted properly, and they know we're serious. When President Trump says we're harder to deal with than China, well, he's treating China, communist China, better than he's treating his closest trading partner. So I have all the confidence in the world that the Prime Minister and Minister Dominic LeBlanc and the Ambassador and everyone else at the table are going to fight. They're going to fight tough. And they have to explain, this hurts the American people. It's proven. Their economy is not going anywhere. Ours continues to grow. And we're seeing more investment. It's not just Canada. The whole world sees it. So honestly, folks, I was getting calls from the UK, Italy, Germany, India, I'm missing another country, France. The message was sent out loud and clear. I just said that every leader in the country wanted to say to President Trump, but couldn't say it.
President Trump this morning was talking about teaching Canada a lesson that the U.S. can't be treated a certain way. He's talked about feeling like the U.S. has been ripped off. Do you continue to think that dollar for dollar is the way to go in terms of retaliation if he escalates further?
Yeah, when you negotiate, you always negotiate through strength. You don't negotiate through weakness. And they're putting out fake news. He likes using fake news. He's putting out fake news. If you take the 4.1 million barrels of oil that we ship down there and we keep their country moving, take that off the sheet, then they have a little bit of a surplus. They have a surplus with Ontario. And then he gets Vice President Vance out there saying, we treat the agricultural sector Canada terrible. Well, guess what? We're their number one customer. We buy $30 billion of agricultural products tied with Mexico. And we treat them so bad, what would happen if Scott Moe decided, okay, I'm rerouting the potash, that 90% goes down to the U.S., if we ever cut out that potash, their agricultural sector would be dead overnight. Absolutely dead. That is one of the most powerful tools we have, along with other tools. And everyone in the world wants our potash. So the president has a choice. Either be fair to us or deal with Russia. Get your potash off Russia. See how well they treat you. Or get your rare earth minerals and critical minerals off China that have the market cornered. Or you can support and work with your closest friends and allies. This is not against the American people. I love the American people. I got so many calls from people in the U.S. saying, keep going, keep going. They're saying this against their own president. So, the ground is shifting, I'm telling you. No matter if it's the governors calling or the senators or Congress people, they're frustrated because they know it's going to hurt their country.
This will be the last reporter.
Hi, Premier. Moira Welsh, Toronto Star. Hi. On Monday, you were very animated about insulting or just commenting on President Trump and the deal. Yes. And I'm wondering if you became quieter the next day. Were you or your staff suddenly concerned that you may have gone a bit too far and actually trained Trump to focus more on Ontario to punish you for your comments?
Not at all. Total opposite. Those words resonated. And I usually don't use those words, but when your country's under attack and your province is under attack and this guy's just nothing but a bully, it resonated around the world and everyone in Canada. It didn't matter what political stripe. It didn't matter if you're from the green, orange, red, blue parties. Everyone is united. And if there's two great things that President Trump did for our country, he woke us up real quick, and he's united the country that I've never seen before. So we're going to stay united right across the board, and we're going to keep moving forward. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Look, I think when you talk about what's happening in the news and the headlines, it's really united Canadians, as the Premier said, and we're seeing that reflect in the numbers. Last year, we set out to double our non-U.S. exports to the tune of $300 billion. It's working. You look at the numbers, non-U.S. exports up by 17%, non-U.S. exports up by $33 billion, the highest it's been in 40 years. This shows that Canadians are resilient people, our businesses are resilient, and our workers are resilient, and they want to get out their goods to new markets around the world, and we will continue to support them.
Well said. Well said.
My final question is off topic, but are you going to speak to Ontarians about the tripling of the costs of the Ontario line and explain how that happened?
Yeah, well, something, through the pandemic, costs were going up, labor was going up, cost of raw materials were going up. Do you think I'm happy? No, I'm not happy about that. We ended up replacing the CEO of Metrolinx. We put a very, very smart individual in there that's reining cost in and oversight. But we're going to make sure that moving forward, everything is on time, on budget. It's like the Eglinton West Line, on time, on budget. Actually, it's 5 weeks ahead of time, and we're moving a lot quicker. But we're doing the largest expansion of transit with the support of municipalities, with the support of our federal government. Think of this, we're spending $80 billion on expanding transit, the largest subway expansion and the largest expansion of GO train service ever in the history of our country, but in North America too. No one's building like we're building. No matter if it's $80 billion for the transit system, $30 billion on building roads and bridges and highways, $64 billion on building new hospitals on 50 sites across the province, over $30 billion on building new schools. That's what we're doing. We're building infrastructure like we've never built before. And I talked to a construction worker the other day when I was out by the tunnel, and I said, doesn't it feel great that you can go home and tell your family that you have certainty, you have stability for 10, 15 years? You're going to be able to plan your future and buy a home? And he had a big, huge smile. He said, absolutely. That's the best thing we can do is keep building infrastructure, but we have to get the approvals done quicker. And that comes to all three levels of government. Let's cut costs. Let's put money back into companies' pockets that they can invest. And I know as an owner of a company, you invest in your people, you invest into infrastructure, you invest in technology, and you invest in buying new equipment. That stirs the economy. Isn't it amazing how we've cut taxes by $12 billion, we're never raised a tax, and we've seen over $70 billion more come up the Queen's Park coffers, because there's 1 million more people working today than there was when I took office. You think of those numbers, they're all paying taxes. There's $230 billion of investment of companies coming in here, hiring people, they're all paying taxes. This is economics 101 in business or in government. Put money into businesses' pockets, they're going to invest it. Put it in people's pockets, they're going to invest it. It's such an easy formula, and it works. We're proving that it works. But anyways, folks, I think that's it for the questions.
That's it. Yep.
Well, thank you so much. I want to thank our federal partners. They're doing a great job. I want to thank our municipal leaders in the regions. We're going to take on this challenge. We're going to keep fighting. We will never stop fighting for the people of Canada and Ontario. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you.